Don't feel scared or be in shock. We're back with this Super League part. It has been a long time since we have touched base on the Super League. It's just timings have been right, like basically the stuff we've been busy, like we've been getting in the NRL part, but the Super League we just haven't had time for a long time. It's been well and truly a long time. The last time we talked about Super League, we were previewing round 23. Now we're up to the final round of round 27. So, not going to go into all details of how each team performed from round 23 right through. I'm just going to give you the results of round 23 to round 25 and then go through the normal process of what we usually do for round 27, 26, like always. So, round 23, Warrington versus Toulouse. Warrington won 32-18. Hull KR versus Leeds Rhinos. Leeds won 28-20. Castleford versus Catalans. Castleford won 18-8. Salford versus Huddersfield. Salford won 33-16. Round 23 still. Wakefield versus Wigan. Wakefield won 30 points to 12. Also, Hull FC versus St. Helens. St. Helens absolutely destroyed Hull FC, 60 points to 6. Round 24 games now. Results, we have got Huddersfield beating Castleford Tigers 36-10. Wigan absolutely thrashing Toulouse 52-6. St. Helens beating Hull KR 38-12. Leeds beating Warrington 24-18. Hull FC going down to Wakefield 26-18. And Catalans going down to Salford 46-14. Round 25, we had Leeds Rhinos go down to Leeds Rhinos beating Huddersfield 18-14. Wakefield beating Hull KR 18-6. Salford beating Hull FC 28-18. Warrington narrowly going down to Castleford 19-18. The French derby, Toulouse Catalans. Toulouse went down to Catalans 14-24. And Wigan against St. Helens. Wigan won that one 30 points to 10. Which brings us up to this final round of the Betfred Super League. What a season we have had for this one here. To start off with, we have got the Huddersfield Giants up against Wakefield Trinity. And I do actually have teams lists with squads. So for Trinity, you got Tinaru Arona, Matty Ashurst, Yusuf Aiden, Eddie Batty, Josh Bowden, Harry Fowles, Robert Butler, Jack Croft, Jordan Crowther, David Fafita, Lee Gaskell, Corey Hall, Max Jellett, Lee Kershaw, Mason Leno, Jacob Miller, Lewis Murphy, Jamie Shaw, Isaac Shaw, Philippi Tanganoa, and Brad Walker. And as for the Huddersfield Giants, you've got Jack Ashworth, Leroy Kudjoe, Matthew English, Ashton Golding, Sam Hewitt, Chris Hill, Sebastian Ikahifo, Josh Jones, Toby King, Michael Lawrence, Ricky Lutelli, Daniel Levi, Tui Lolohea, Nathan Mason, Chris McLean, Adam O'Brien, Will Price, Ollie Russell, Innes Senior, Lewis Senior, and Oliver Wilson. So they're the squads for Huddersfield and Wakefield. So let's go back to round 26 for these two respective sides, and let's go with the home side first with the Huddersfield Giants. Narrowly winning over Warrington Wolves 38-36. Yes, it was the Giants looked like they absolutely had this one in control, which they were for, you could say, the majority of the match. It was a very high scoring match as well. But Warrington somehow come back. I don't know what the hell happened to Huddersfield, but they still just managed to hang on to get the win to try to consolidate a top 4 position for them. And Huddersfield definitely making the playoffs, with the playoff spot in 6th being the last remaining spot to be resolved, which I will touch on later. But Huddersfield, they were just scoring points for fun, really, until Warrington started coming back at them, and Huddersfield had to try and hold them off, and they did a very good job in holding them off. Warrington, I don't know what got into them in the second half, really, because when they really put the foot down and were scoring all over the place, they were really getting into the lead that Huddersfield had built up. Also, Huddersfield had built up a decent amount of lead for them to just win this one. Warrington were down out early. What I've written here, Warrington were down and out. Looked like they were down and out, but they end up piling on points themselves. So they basically did what Huddersfield did to them in the first half, but only 2-point loss in it for that one. But a very good game, I have to say, overall. Warrington, probably one of the better games that they've had for the 2022 season. They've been pretty poor this season. They did go for a slight run of back-to-back wins, but that didn't last long. I still reckon the biggest upsets, the biggest losses, I should say, or surprise losses to Warrington, was when they lost to Wakefield in the Challenge Cup finals, and then Wakefield the week after that. That's when I think of Warrington's surprise losses or losses this season, Challenge Cup and Clubland wise, those two back-to-back losses to Wakefield were to the I instantly go back to. Don't know why, maybe because they were surprise losses, but that's the reason. Well, that's what I think of anyway. As for Wakefield, well, as you heard the results from round 23 right through to round 25, they have been on a roll. And being on a roll and upsetting the 3-time reigning premiers of St. Helens, beating them 34 points to 18. Yes, that is what you heard right. Wakefield, who have been battling to try and stay in the Super League for 2023, beat the team that are on top of the ladder. And who would have seen that coming? But the rates that Wakefield have been going on as of late, where's this been all year from? If they were like this, playing like this earlier in the year, in all season, they could have been in the playoffs themselves or battling to stay in the playoffs. But no, instead they were trying to go against relegation, and they have certainly done that indeed. So, unfortunately for Toulouse, which I'll get onto them very shortly, the Super League part for them is done. For 23, they could be back up there in 24. We just have to wait and see. But we want to see Toulouse in the Betfred Super League in 2023, but we'll still see Wakefield Trinity. Hopefully an improved Wakefield Trinity with the rate they've been going as of late. But it's a surprise win, and as I just mentioned, they have truly cemented a spot now in the Super League. They had a wonderful game, and knocking off a top side is definitely going to help their confidence heading into this match against Huddersfield and hopefully into next season. Now, what I was saying, and that's what I mean with the intro when I said about Wakefield do a St. Helens to St. Helens. That's what I mean. St. Helens usually dominate like lower sides like Wakefield, but roles reversed. And I'm not quite sure what happened to St. Helens though. But as they say, never write off the states, because they can always still come back and win. They should win in a final matchup of the season, which I'll touch on when I get to the prediction time for that game. But they still be thinking, what the heck happened to get outclassed and outperformed by a lower ranked side? It's head scratching. Yeah, but I'm confused about, don't know what's happening. My Super League expert Connor might have an answer. He might mention it next week. He might listen to this part of the podcast, and he might comment or write on Facebook or whatever of what he thinks might go on. But anyway, so back to this Huddersfield Wakefield game. This one, you think, should go in the way of Huddersfield, but the rate that Wakefield have been playing, I reckon Wakefield could cause an upset here and knock off another top four team in as many weeks. Or even they beat Wigan in a round. I can't remember what round it was, but it was in round 23 to 25 bracket that we didn't touch on. Or I did touch on, but we did debrief about. Connor says Huddersfield to win this one 7-12. I'm actually going to say Wakefield to win this one in 7-12. They could potentially do it. It'll be a very good matchup indeed. Before I get too carried away though, I have to go back for the Huddersfield Warrington standout player as well as the St. Helens Wakefield one. Go back to the Huddersfield one. So Huddersfield standout front corner was Toy Lower here with one try assist, 224 running meters, 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 1 offload. And for Wakefield, his standout was Lewis Murphy with 4 tries, 1 try assist, 125 running meters, 6 tackle breaks, 4 line breaks, and offload. He is an absolute star, or star in the making, or emerging star, whatever you want to call it, Lewis Murphy. And if Wakefield can keep him for next season, which I believe they have, he's under contract with them still. I mean, contracts don't mean anything nowadays. But if he can build on this heading into next season, he could be an absolute dominant force and help Wakefield get up into the playoffs next season. Still a long way until the start of next season, though, when we've still got the playoffs, the grand final, and one more game to go of the regular season. But they keep him. I can watch out for Wakefield, especially him, or if he's off contract, there are a few teams circling him, I reckon. The way he's been playing this year, he's been one of the best players for Wakefield this year I'm going to say by far. Now for the next game, we have got the Wigan Warriors versus the Catalan Dragons on Sky Sports. Now we do have the squads for those as well. We'll start off with the home side of the Warriors. We've got John Bateman, Jake Bibby, Liam Flynn, Mark Cooper, Kate Cusk, Kate Ellis, Jai Field, Kevin French, Joseph Havard, Willie Isa, Tom Luai, William Marshall, Abus Miski, Bradley O'Neill, Oliver Hartington, Clark Pearspaw, Joseph Shorrocks, Patrick Simon, Brad Singleton, Harry Smith, and Morgan Smithies. As for the away side of Catlins, we've got Taitaki Chan, Lee Collins, Matthew Cozza, Josh Drinkwater, Romain Franco, Benjamin Julian, Arturo Romano, Caesar Roach, and Hugo Salazar. Don't think that's a full squad. That's only 9 players. That's not the full squad, but obviously that will change to later on unless there's a glitch or a website error as I am on the official Super League website. So unless something's not right there, but yeah, definitely be more than that. Catlins cannot afford to forfeit this time if they want to stay in top 4, which I think they still will. I'll get to the ladder later on. So let's start off with Wigan's match, which they went down to Hull KR, 38 points to 28. Yes, that's another surprising result here. Round 26 was full of surprises there. Wakefield beat St Helens. Now we've got Hull KR beating Wigan. Where Hull KR only a few months ago, probably a month and a half, probably 2 months ago now, were absolutely nowhere. But they pulled it off. I don't know what happened to Wigan. They'll be definitely scratching their heads and trying to figure out what went wrong for them. And they did try and come back at the Robins, but just couldn't quite get there. I can't figure it out myself. I'm lost for words of why Wigan lost to the rival, the Hull KR, when surely it was all going to be a Wigan victory by a country mile. Super League and Rugby League is a funny game. And anything can happen week in, week out. The key standout player was Ryan Hall with 1 try, 2 try assists, 111 meters, 5 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 3 offloads. That is thank you to Connor and his standout performance. Player there. And their opposition is the Catlins Dragons, Catlins Dragons, I believe. Yeah, sorry, I read wrong team for a second. Catlins Dragons. They went and beats the Leeds Rhinos 32 points to 18. Standout player for Connor was Joe Chan with 1 try, 132 run meters, 4 tackle breaks, and 1 line break. Yes, in the end, Catlin were way too good for him. And they come away with it win too. I'm pretty sure lock away at top 4 finish. For the majority of the match, they took complete control, and that's what helped them in the end. Build up a decent lead early on, and back off a little bit in the second half. Not too much back off, but back off enough for them to not risk any injuries or anything. But still enough for Leeds to get some points on the board. Be only 18, but it's better than none. And it definitely helps Leeds too because they now have to win against Carlsford if they want to make the playoffs. Leeds sitting in 7th, Carlsford sitting in 6th on the table at the moment. This loss for the Leeds does not help them at all. With the run they've been having as late, they look like they weren't going to make the playoffs. But over the last little while, they have started, they are getting better and better and start to come back, and now are in the chance. But they were clearly outperformed by the Catalan Dragons, and they want to make the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs. They wanted to definitely tighten up the defense and be more getting points on the board early on instead of trying to stage comebacks, which in playoffs is going to be very hard to do to stage a comeback. So you need to either be in front by a healthy margin or then sticking with the opposition, whoever that might be. So for this match, Wigan Catalans, it's gonna say the game of the round. It's two top four sides going head to head. Well, one of the games of the round, just to say. Game Conrad's going Wigan 1-6. Being at home, Wigan will definitely want to play exceptionally well, like they always do. But they'll definitely want to bounce back after having that 10-point loss to Hull KR. So I'm going to say Wigan win this one 1-6 as well. Going to be a very, very juicy matchup indeed. Now for the first of the Saturday fixtures for England and Sunday for Australia. Hull FC versus Hull KR. So we have got the Hull derby to finish off the season for both these clubs. No squad names, unfortunately. So I think the only four we would have gotten were Wigan, Catalans, Huddersfield, Wakefield. But as I just spoke about, Hull KR beating Wigan. Let's go to the crosstown rivals as Hull FC as they beat Toulouse Olympic 38 points to 12. Look, Toulouse and come the end of this round, they're unfortunately going back to the championship. It was always going to be a hard task for them. I overestimated how well they're going to be. When I did the ladder predictions this year, I did say Toulouse going to finish third, not second or third in the table at the start of the year. But that's just purely how they were going on in the championship in 2021. After they'll carry that across into 2022 and in the Super League. But I've quickly learned that the your form in your championship does not mean anything for the Super League. It took a long time for Toulouse to get a win on the board, and they finally did, and it was surprisingly against St. Helens, and they ran on that run of form. Before they had a couple wins here and there. Then they had that run of form when they won, I think 3 or 4 on the trot, which took them off the bottom line for the first time, but that didn't last long before they sit back down, and they have stayed there ever since. So 12 points is still good. I'm pretty sure I'll go back and check and get back onto next week. But Toulouse have not been held scoreless all season. They've at least got some points on the board in every single match, I think. And what an outstanding feat that would be if that is the case there. I'll definitely get back onto that one there. It's going to take a while for me to try and go back through all the results. But I will say we're just too dominant, really. Like, they played. If they're playing playoffs, yeah, you expect them to play well like that. But since they're not, they've just been way too inconsistent all season long, and that's really cost them this year. They never looked like losing. like I said, they just show what they're capable of when they're on. Like when they're playing exceptionally well, like they were. It's one of their better performances that they've had this year. But inconsistencies hurt them this season. And Connor will probably back me up on that same in the same page. I think we're on for that in saying that. That too many errors in for Toulouse in this one, and the defense was nowhere near tight enough as what it should have been. If they would have had any sort of chance of winning this one, they just needed to really tighten up the fence and cut out a lot of the areas. But that's what cost them in this one. The standout players for this one, Connor's got editorial powers. So he's got Jake Connor with 94 run meters, 3 try assists, 3 tackle breaks, 5 from 6 goals converted. And Harvey Barron, we've got 2 tries, 1 try assist, 103 running meters, 2 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, and 2 offloads. For, I believe it was Toulouse, or I should know it by now, but there's still standout players there for Connor. Now back to the whole FC and whole KR derby. Surprisingly, the suspended bugger didn't give me his tips. He wrote the game, but not his tips. So in other words, Connor's going for a draw. Let's just say that. I don't think he'll be listening, so we can get away with it. I'm pretty sure we can. Shh. Don't message him on our socials or Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or comment, because otherwise I don't want him finding out. That's a secret between me and you, okay? Okay. Okay, so the next game we have got the Leeds Rhinos up against the Castleford Tigers. Now, this is a very crucial match for both teams. Win in the playoffs, lose out of the playoffs. Simple as that. With Leeds, they went down to Catlands, as I not long mentioned. They tried this comeback, but wasn't good enough. But for Castleford, one happy supporter, well, not a Castleford supporter, as you all may know, but they went up against Salford and they lost by 40 points. Yes, Salford beat Castleford 50 points to 10, and it has now officially confirmed that Salford are in the playoffs for 2022. Yes, one very happy Salford camper right here. It was going to be a tough matchup because there could have been a 3-way fight going into this week between Leeds, Castleford, and Salford to see who makes the playoffs and who didn't. But with Salford's thumping victory over Castleford, it books them a spot in the playoffs. So it's all to play for Castleford. Salford just ran absolutely riot over the Tigers and just don't know what happened to them. But the question is, can Salford keep this up playing going into the playoffs? I'm happy that they made the playoffs. Let's see if they can carry it on through with 2 weeks away. So, well, making the playoffs is better than not making the playoffs at all, which could be the story for Castleford. Do they? Don't they? The standout player for this matchup between Castleford and Salford is Callum Watkins with 1 try, 2 try assists, 138 running meters, 5 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, and 2 offloads. The Tigers, they went absolutely hiding in the jungle, as I've been saying. Win in, lose out. That's the theory. They have to win this one against Leeds. And Leeds, it's going to come down, well, competition points, because really, Leeds will have the 1 point advantage with having a draw against Huddersfield very early on in the season. So this one will be a very juicy matchup indeed. It's not the game of the round. The game of the round, I think, is the Wigan Catline's match, but this one will be a close second behind it. Connor says that Leeds will make the playoffs with a 1-6 victory, with a 1-6 win prediction. This one is super hard. I don't know what to say. I'd like to see Leeds considering where they were a couple months ago, but then Castleford just, I think the inconsistencies hurt them that little bit too much this season. But I'm gonna have to agree with Connor and say Leeds 1-6, something that we agree on, which we don't do very often. For the second last match of the regular season, we have got Salford up against Warrington. We know Salford's result in the playoffs. Very happy about that. And Warrington, they just ever so close to winning over Huddersfield. But that's been a story of Warrington season. They either lead, which they didn't in this match, but generally speaking, for their season, led by a decent amount or a small amount, more like a decent amount, and then fell asleep and just collapsed in the second half. Or they had to stage a comeback and lose narrowly, which is what's happened. This one should be an easy result. I mean, Salford could potentially rest players now that they've got a spot in the playoffs, but to keep the momentum going into the playoffs, they probably won't. And I haven't got the team squad, so I'm not 100% sure what it will look like. The squads for both this side, the Red Devils and the Wolves. Connor has gone assault for a 13+ victory. Well, this is on my side of the fence for once. See, I'm just going to have to remind him. I'm going to do it over these ourselves next week. Where did Connor have Salford finishing on the table come the end of the year? I think he had a finishing ninth and out of the playoffs. Or fighting. Right, no, he had him a lot lower than that, I think. I had him in ninth, I think. Connor had him like in 15th or 16th and going to get relegated. They're a long way from that, buddy. I think the Salford supporter out of us two knows what they're talking about with their team. Easy for you to say, you bloody St. Helens bastard. Nah, St. Helens are the top side. I can see why you went with those. But yeah, so Salford 13+ for Connor, Salford 13+ me. And the final game of round 27 and the regular season of the Betfred Super League goes to St. Helens up against Toulouse Olympic. First v last. Like I said, Toulouse are done and out. They will try and get back into the. They will try to win this one, but St. Helens will definitely bounce back after losing at Wakefield by that margin. And Toulouse, they're just playing for pride now. Yes, they're away. They had the highs, they've had the lows this season. They've had injuries, they've had suspensions, they've had a John Hopewade coming to the side and then come out and then suspended for 8 weeks for it. No, seriously, it wasn't John Hopewade. I was quoting somebody to the John Hopewade thing. But yeah, it's very unfortunate to see Toulouse out. But really, St. Helens have been a class of their own this year. So you think that St. Helens will win this one by a comfortable margin? Connor has said St. Helens will win this one 7-12. Look, he's probably right. I have other than Salford, I've had a bit of a soft spot for Toulouse. You kind of like this year. They've kind of been like my second team. I've ridden the highs for them, like especially the win, ridden the lows for them, especially like absolute beltings. And I'm like wincing at like, oh, that was a close one for them, you know. Or like, god damn it, they just missed out on the win. But like I said, when I sent St. Helens 7-12, Toulouse's first win of the Super League for them was against St. Helens at over in France. So in saying that, Toulouse's first win in Super League against St. Helens is also going to be the last win in the Super League for 2022. So I'm going to say Toulouse to beat St. Helens 7-12. It's going to be very unlikely, but why not? Just have a bit of fun for the final game of the season. And now for the Betfred Super League table. Well, heading to the last round, St. Helens have wrapped up the Miners again, regardless if they win or lose against Toulouse, or if Wigan win or not. Because the competition points for St. Helens are on 40 and Wigan are on 36. That is just not quite there for Wigan. So St. Helens wrap up the Miners again. Currently, Wigan are second on 36 and will stay there. Huddersfield third on 33 points. McCatlan's on 32 points in fourth. So if Catlands win over Wigan and Huddersfield lose to Wakefield, or then Catlands will be third, Huddersfield will be fourth. But if they both win, it will stay status quo. Or even if Huddersfield win and Catlands lose, it will still stay status quo. So really, Catlands want to finish third on the table, they have to win over Wigan, which will be a very juicy matchup indeed. Fifth and in lockdown position. Well, not going to get any higher than fifth, Salford. This is so fifth, sixth, and seventh. So Salford's in fifth on 28 points. Leeds in sixth on 27. And Castleford in seventh on 26 points. Now, a for and against for Salford is 116, the difference. Leeds 43, Castleford minus 70. So, out of if Castleford win, they'll go to 28 competition points, equal with Salford as it stands. So we're talking about Leeds, Castleford now before I get to Salford. So Castleford beat Leeds, 28 competition points, they're in. If Leeds win, they'll go to 29 competition points and if fifth ahead of Salford, who will drop down sixth. That is if Salford lose against Warrington. Salford win against Warrington, they will stay in fifth and go on 30 competition points. Then it will be either Castleford on 28 or Leeds on 29. So that's the mumbo jumbo there. Salford guaranteed playoffs regardless of the result for them and or the Leeds Castleford game. So that's 7. 8 is Hull FC on 22 points. Hull KR on 22 points. 9. Whoever wins that one will leapfrog one another. The difference being minus 135 for Hull FC, minus 142 for Hull KR. So Hull KR win, they move up. Hull KR lose, they stay down. And Hull FC, they win, they'll go on to 24 points. Wakefield, if they win over Huddersfield, they'll go on 22 points and leapfrog either Hull FC or Hull KR. Will be Wakefield being the first game with the Hull derby a couple of games later. They'll come down to C after Hull derby C. who finishes in front of who. If Wakefield win over Huddersfield, then who like gets in front of Huddersfield, in front of Wakefield. Sorry, if Wakefield's scoring against on minus 100, different, sorry, minus 149. So it's well and truly on to see who finishes in 8th, 9th, and 10th. Warrington Wolves, wow, they are in 11th and are stuck there. They can't move up, can't move down, stuck in 11th. There's 16 competition points. That is a very, very poor season for on Warrington's standard, and Toulouse Olympic, as I said, will be getting relegated down back to the championship. And they're on 10 competition points, can get the 12. But against St. Helens, you never know. I did tip Toulouse, but it's going to be a big ask there. And that is all your Betfred Super League wrap up. For the first time in a long time, we get, well, I'm superior than Connor. It would get a Super League debriefing. Next week, hopefully, we debrief the last round of, all the results from round 27 of the Betfred Super League. And we'll start previewing what will be the finals or playoffs. So enjoy your Super League action this week, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to get more Super League action the rest of the season. And for next season, ring the bell so you don't miss any part of the podcast. Facebook and Instagram is our socials, which is at Sideline Chat. With Twitter, our social tag is at Sideline Chat. Enjoy footy wherever you're watching, Australia, England, America, wherever you're watching across the world, whether it's NRL, Super League, NRLW, whatever, any sort of league that's happening around the world. Enjoy, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.